Now we're into the matrix section. Question number 53 asks us to multiply the following matrices. And we've got this example here. I do want to mention we don't often see a lot of multiplying matrices, but every now and then we do. So that's why I think it's always good to practice. They're usually not very complicated, and this one is in that example here. So let's look at this. First we have matrix A times matrix B, and let's just go over something first. So when we're looking at a matrix, we give the dimensions of a matrix with rows by columns. And so the rows are 1, 2. So this has 2 rows and it has 1, 2, 3 columns. So this is a 2 by 3 matrix, and this matrix B has 1, 2, 3 rows and 1 column, so makes it a 3 by 1. Now here is the rule, because sometimes they will ask you to multiply just like we are here, but sometimes they'll ask, can the matrix even be multiplied? And here's the test. For them to be able to be multiplied, when you set up these dimensions here, these two values have to be the same, and the result is going to be a 2 by 1. So that will check us out. We could actually glance at that and give that, and then you could even look at your answer choices, and we know we need 2 rows by 1 column. This has 2 rows, 1 column. That's a potential. This only has 1 row but 2 columns. B's already out. We haven't even multiplied and we know it's out. C's the same, it's out. And D is a potential with a 2 by 1. So that is one thing you could do if you didn't want to go through and multiply. But when we multiply matrices, we start off and we're going to multiply row 1 by column 1. So I'm going to set up my matrix here. I'm going to have 3 times 1. So I'm getting this 3 times 1 plus 2 times 2, row 1, column 1, 2 times 2, plus this 1 times 3, 1 times 3. And then we can close out. And then now we're going to do row 2 by column 1, which is 0 times 1. 0 times 1 plus 4 times 2 plus 2 times 3. This just takes a little bit of practice getting your entries in the matrix set up so that you can do that. And you're going to get to a point when you're doing this, hopefully, you might not even have to write out all these numbers. You can just do these in your head, because as you can see, it's pretty straightforward multiplication. 3 times 1 is 3, plus 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 times 3 is 3. For our second row, 0 times 1 is 0, plus 4 times 2 is 8, plus 2 times 3 is 6, and that's going to lead us, when we multiply, 3 plus 4 is 7, plus 3 is 10. We could actually stop here because we look at the first entry that has a 10 in that first position, and that's A, but continuing on, 8 plus 6 is 14, and that confirms the answer as answer choice A. Question 54, we're asked to find the determinant of the matrix. So when we have a matrix here, we have values in here, but I'm just going to rewrite this as A, B, C, D, where those represent values in a 2 by 2 matrix, 2 rows by 2 columns. To find the determinant of this matrix, we're going to do some multiplication. And here we're going to do some cross of A times D minus B times C. So we're just going to plug in those values. So knowing this equation here that we're using to find the determinant, first I'm going to take 3 times 1 minus 4 times 2, multiply out, and we get 3 minus 8, and that equals -5, and that is answer choice B. Question 55 is asking us for the resulting matrix given this set here. So first of all, we have values out in front, these scalar values, so we're going to have to multiply through first. It's sort of like multiplying with parentheses sort of like, but we're going to take this 4 and we're going to multiply each entry in this matrix by 4. So I'll rewrite this as 4 times 1, 0 times 4. These are still just the entries. 4 times 2 and 4 times 3. Plus, now we're going to do the same thing with the 2. We have to multiply each value by 2. So we have 2 times 2, we have 2 times 3, 2 times 1, and 2 times 0. Now let's simplify inside here, and then we're going to add. So that gives us a matrix of the values 4, 0, 8, and 12. And add to that the matrix that is 4, 6, 2, and 0. Now to be able to add matrices, they have to be the same dimension. So both of these are 2 by 2. We can add those, and that just basically means we're going to add the entries in each position. So 4 plus 4, then 0 plus 6, 8 plus 2, and 12 plus 0. Let's add those up, and we're going to get 8, 6, 10, and 12. And actually, as we're doing this, we see that it's answer choice B, but you could have just added and gotten the first entry of 8, and that would have given you answer choice B as well. So that's another way that you can quickly work these without having to fully solve the question. Now let's take a look at a few questions about complex numbers, and this has a real value and an imaginary value. The imaginary values are indicated with the I. So when we're looking at that, you can sort of think of it as you do with variables, like that you can only add like values and that sort of thing. So what is the distance between the points 1 plus 4i and 3 minus 2i on the complex plane? So when we're looking at distance of imaginary numbers, it's the same way we do distance with values on the xy coordinate plane. So first of all, we're going to have to look at these as we have the real values and then the imaginary values. And we're just taking the distance between each of those. So first we're going to take this 1 minus the 3 squared plus, and then we're just looking at the values in front of the I. So we have 4 minus a minus 2, so that's going to make that a plus 2 squared. So we're looking at these values here, and then so simplify inside, and we'll get 1 minus 3 is a minus 2 squared, plus 4 plus 2 is 6 squared. Continuing to simplify, negative 2 squared is a 4, plus 6 squared is 36. This gives us the square root of 40, and we can simplify that. We can pull a 4 out in front, or 4 out of there. The square root of 4 is 2 on the square root of, that leaves 10 under, and that is answer choice D. So the distance is going to be an actual value, and we use each of these terms in the points. Question 57, what is the midpoint between these 2 points on the complex plane? So midpoint, we're using the same thing that we would do for a point on the xy coordinate plane. We just have these I values here. So we're looking for the distance or the midpoint. So midpoint, we kind of think of average with that. So first of all, we're going to add up the 1 plus 3, divide that by 2, and we have 4 over 2 gives us 2. That is our real value. So looking at that, we can already eliminate answer choice B and D, because here we have the 2 and the 2. Now what about our I values? We have 4i plus a negative 2i, and we're going to divide that by 2 because we're doing midpoint. So 4i minus 2i gives us 2i over 2, which is just I. So that is going to lead us into 2 plus I, which is answer choice C. Now let's do a question related to vectors. This one asks us the result of adding these 2 vectors, A and B. So when we add that, we're just adding the components, the same components there. So first we have the component 3 plus 2, and then we have the component 6 minus 5. And simplify here, 3 plus 2 is 5, 6 minus 5 is 1, and that gives us answer choice D. So don't let vectors scare you. Don't let the complex numbers scare you. Work these problems, figure out how you work them, and then just plug your numbers in. Now let's move to the algebra section of questions, and we're doing evaluating expressions. Number 59 says if x is equal to 3 and y is equal to 4, what is the value of z in the following expression? So we've got this expression, z is equal to 2x plus 3y. And so I have been told to plug in 3 for x. So I'm going to make this x plus we have 4 for y. Let's simplify. We've just been doing some similar substitution type things or multiplying. 6 plus 12, that's going to give us 18, which is answer choice C. Question 60 says the ideal gas law is the equation of state of a hypothetical ideal gas. We don't care about that information for the purposes of this test. So don't let stuff like that kind of sentence mess you up. What we're looking at here is we want to get to the question. It gives us this ideal gas law. Solve this equation for T. Okay, so there is what we're solving for. So we've got PV equals nRT. How do we get T by itself? Well, we've got this multiplication of N and R. So I'm going to divide through by NR. Since it shows multiplication, we do the opposite. So that would simplify out. T is equal to PV over NR. And that's answer choice B. Question 61 says which equation represents A in terms of B for this expression or this equation here. So if that kind of wording messes us up, let's look at our answer choices. And basically what we're asking for is to solve for A. So when I have 2A minus 8B equals 4, and I want to solve for this A, first thing I want to do is move the 8B to the other side, and the way I do that is add it. So now I have 2A equals 4 plus 8B. I need to divide through by 2 to get the A by itself. Let's come over here, and we've got A is equal to 4 plus 8B over 2. We don't have an answer in this form because we can simplify it even more. Now when I have this division, this dividing by 2 of this addition, I've got to divide 2 into each term. So I've got 4 divided by 2 is 2, and 8b divided by 2 is 4b. So that will give us 2 plus 4b, which is written just switched, and we can do that because it's addition, and we can do that because it's additive property, and that's answer choice D. 62 is an example of a question with special operators, and we have these that are indicated by these circles, these colored in circles, and it gives us the definition of the expression here. XY is the same as AB, and that means multiply XB minus YA. Now let's plug in real values. And so what we want to do is it tells us the first terms, this 1, 2 are XY, and the second term after the circle is AB. And so how did it expand that out? Well, it said XB. So if we look at what X is 1 times B, which is 4, minus Y, which is 2, times A, which is 3. And so now we can simplify. We get 4 minus 6, and that is equal to -2, and that's answer choice A. Question 63 said the formula for exponential decay is given by the following, and we have this equation where y is the new value, a is the original, r is rate as a decimal, and t is time in years. If the original value is 35, the rate is 12%, and the time is 5 years, what is y to the nearest tenth? So we need to plug in some values. It gives us the formula that y equals a, and it said a is the original value. And it told us in this sentence, the original value is 35. So I'm going to plug in 35, parentheses, 1 minus r. R is rate as a decimal. So it gives us a rate of 12%. 12% as a decimal is 0.10. We move the decimal point 2 places to the left, raised to the t. And it said t is time in years, and we're given time to be 5 years. So everything's in place to just plug that in. And now we can solve this. We can put this into our calculator, and I like to go ahead and just punch all that in at one time. I'm going to first say 1 minus 0.12, which is 0.88. Let's raise that to the 5th power. And we're going to get a decimal that I don't want to write down. I want to keep that in my calculator. Multiply that by 35, and it says round it to the nearest tenth. I get 18.4706, and to the nearest tenth is going to make that 18.5. And that's answer choice C. The next section is on writing expressions. Question 64. Write an expression for 3 more than 2 times a number. So when we look at our answer choices, it looks like the number, the unknown variable, is an x. So first of all, write an expression for 3 more than 2 times a number. So here's the number. We're going to use x. 2 times a number would be 2x. And really, I can kind of start looking at this because that's the only thing we're multiplying by the number. And in this case, C doesn't even have a variable. It can go out. Maybe D's there. B, we're multiplying 3 times x. That's out. And A has multiplying by 2. Well, what else does this say? 3 more than this 2x. So 3 more means we're going to add 3 to 2x. You could write it as 3 plus 2x or 2x plus 3. And that's the same as answer choice A. Question 65 said Emily designs websites for customers. Her fees include a $50 consultation fee plus a $30 per hour design fee. How many hours did she charge on a $200 bill? So we know the amount is $200, and that's going to be made up of a $50 consultation fee. So no matter what, they're charged $50. Then depending on how many hours she works, she's going to charge $30 per hour. And we're looking for how many hours. That's an X value. So to this 50, we're going to add $30 times X hours. So this is our equation. Now we want to solve for X. So first I'm going to subtract the 50 from both sides, and I get 150 equals 30X. We divide through by 30. And 150 divided by 30 means X is equal to 5. So that's answer choice C, 5 hours. Question 66 says the sum of 2 numbers is 12. Their difference is 6. What is their product? So here's an example. We need to know what all these words mean with respect to math. When we talk about sum, we're adding up. Difference, we're subtracting. Product, we're multiplying. So we've got 2 numbers, and we can name those X, Y, A, B. You do whatever you want. I think I'm going to use X and Y. So it says their sum is 12. So that means when I take X and Y, add them up, it equals to 12. Their difference is 6. So when I subtract, it's 6. I don't know which one's larger, and it doesn't matter right now. But when I subtract X minus Y, it's equal to 6. We want to know what their product is. What is X times Y? We've got to find that out. We have 2 equations and 2 unknowns here. Even looking at how we've written this, one of the ways you can solve 2 equations and 2 unknowns is by adding the equations. And I like that because look right here, the Y's are going to cancel out, and I'm going to get X plus X, 2X equals 12 plus 6 is 18. Let's move this over here. 2x is equal to 18. To solve for x, I'm going to divide by 2, and I get 18 over 2, which is 9. That's the value of x. So if x is 9, I can go back to one of my original equations that said x plus y is 12. 9 plus y is equal to 12. Subtract 9 from both sides, y is going to be equal to 3. So now I can plug that in. X times y is 9 times 3, which is 27, and that's answer choice C. Question 67 gives us a chart for x and y. Which of the following equations represents this relationship? So when you see something like this, this is really going to be looking at some kind of change or a slope kind of equations, and that's what we're looking for in the form y equals mx plus b. Whoops, a plus inside, y equals mx plus b. And the reason I'm looking at that, when I look at my x values, right now they are increasing by a constant value of 1. So for every change in x, we're going to have what kind of change in y? Well, right here we go from 6 to 1. That's a difference of 5. 6 to 11 is 5. 11 to 16 is 5. We also have a constant change in y. So that's going to be this slope here. So when I'm looking at that, when we're filling in y equals mx plus b, m is our slope. And in this case, for every one change in x, we have an increase in of y value of 5. So remember, m is the change in y over the change in x, and that is 5 over 1. So that's going to give us an m value of 5. We write down our variable x plus, now what is b? B, remember, is when x is 0, what is y? It is 1. So we have the 5x plus 1, and that's answer choice C. So this is a little bit of this is an equation, writing equation question, but it also has slope. So we have mixed topics that show up in our questions. But when you see a chart like this and you see these constant values, be thinking slope. Question 68 says for 2 consecutive integers, that means it's a value without a decimal point, the result of doubling the smaller integer and adding to the larger integer is 76. What are the 2 integers? So they've given us a lot of information in this first sentence. Let's write it all out. The very first phrase says for 2 consecutive integers. That's some important information. Consecutive means like 1 and 2, 10, 11. So consecutive, one after the other. Now that's going to give us some clues here in our answer choices. So they all have to follow one another. 3 and 4, 12 and 15 don't follow. So B is out. 25, 26, and 30 and 31. So that's just an initial look. In terms of representing with variables, I'm going to use x and then x plus 1. That's the very next value, right? So it says the result of doubling the smaller one, so that's x, we're going to double the smaller one, and adding it to the larger, we're going to add it to the x plus 1, is 76. So this gives us an equation. So what we have here, let's add up our variables. We have 2x plus x equals 3x, plus 1 equals 76. Subtract 1 from both sides, we've got 3x equals 75. And when I divide through by 3, I'm going to get that x is equal to 25. So that is the smaller value. So that's going to make x plus 1 equal to 26. And that's answer choice C. Question 69 said Macy's selling t-shirts for her summer business. She can rent a stand at the mall for $100 a month. Each shirt costs her $2 to make, but she can sell one for $15. If she runs her business for 3 months at the mall, what is the expression that represents her profit when X t-shirts are produced and sold? So this is a profit loss type of equation that we're looking at. So when we're looking at profit, it's how much she makes minus any of her expenses. First of all, we are told that she makes $15 a shirt, or that's how much she sells it for, but it costs her $2 to make it. So she's actually making 15 minus 2. She's only making $13. So from her profit, and that's for every X t-shirt that she sells. So she's going to make 13 times X in income, revenue, but she's got some expenses. In addition to making the t-shirt, she's got to pay for her stand, which is $100 a month, and they said for 3 months. So from this, she's got to subtract out 100 times 3 months. So we can simplify this a little bit more to 13x minus 300. Hopefully she's making more than $300 so that she can have a profit. But that's going to be answer choice A. Question 70 says if 2y equals x squared plus 4, then what is negative y equivalent to? So we have 2y is equal to x squared plus 4. We want to solve and eventually get negative y, but first let's just get regular y. We'll divide through by 2, and we'll have x squared plus 4 divided by 2. And that's as far as we can simplify it. We could break it down into each one, and we may do that because now we've got to do a negative y, which basically means let's multiply everything by a negative 1. We usually don't include the 1. So negative y is equal to negative x squared. I'm just going to go ahead and distribute that negative through there, divided by 2. Now, I don't have an equation in this form, but what I can do is I can take that 2 and divide it through by everything. Let's simplify this, and we'll get negative x squared over 2 minus 2. Do we have anything like that? I think answer choice B looks like that. So be prepared to simplify in different ways depending on how your answers are presented. Now let's look at combining like terms with question 71. What is this expression equivalent to? So remember, we've got some different variables here. It looks like x, y, z. We can only combine like terms. So I'm going to go ahead and rewrite this so that we can look at it all together. Minus, now we've got this negative sign here. So I want to go ahead and distribute it through into what's in parentheses. It's just going to help things out, I think, a little bit. So I'm going to make that a negative 4x or minus 4x. A minus times a minus makes that a plus 5y. And a minus in front of the plus is going to make that a negative 3z. Now let's look at combining like terms. So I've got a 3x here and a negative 4x there. So we can write that 3x minus 4x. Now let's do the 2y plus 5y. So plus 2y plus 5y. And then we've got negative z, or minus z, I should say, minus z minus 3z. Now I've got it kind of grouped together. So 3x minus 4x gives us negative x, 2y plus 5y plus 7y. Now, as I'm going through this, at this point, you could look at your answer choices, and we're looking for the negative x plus 7y. That's automatically going to lead us to B, and we can eliminate the other things. But let's continue on. Negative z minus 3z. We've got minus 4z. And that, again, matches with answer choice B. Question 72. What must be added to x squared plus 5x so that the sum is this? So we're using variables, but don't let that confuse you. If you had the question, what must be added to 5 so that when you add it up it equals 7? Well, you would clearly say add 2 to this 5, and you get that from subtracting the 5 from the 7. So let's try that here. We've got an overall sum of 3x squared minus 2x plus 4, and from that I'm going to subtract x squared plus 5x. It's important to use the parentheses because we want to subtract both terms. So let's distribute this negative sign through here. And I left my x out, I'm sorry. 3x squared minus 2x plus 4 minus x squared minus 5x. Now we can only combine like terms. I've got x squared here. So 3x squared minus x squared gives me a 2x squared. Now I could start looking right here, and when I'm looking at this, I only see one answer choice that's got a 2x squared, and that's D. I'm thinking that's going to be the answer it should be, and we could go on if we're 100% sure that we've done correct, which we have, but that's a quick way to answer this question. But let's continue on. Now we have a minus 2x minus 5x gives me a minus 7x, and the plus 4 is left, and that does match with answer choice D. Now let's move to the distributive property, which we've done some of these within other problems, but question 73 says to evaluate this expression. So we've got to distribute this negative 3xy into both terms here. So I'm going to multiply negative 3xy times x squared, which is multiplying these x's, really, same base, we'll add the exponents. So I still have a negative 3x to the third, because this is x to the first plus 2 gives me an x to the third y. Don't forget the y. Now we're going to multiply the negative 3xy times negative 2xy cubed. So I have a negative times a negative is going to give me a positive. And then 3 times the 2 is a 6. X times x gives me x squared. X to the first times x to the first. I'm adding those ones. And then y times y to the third gives me a y to the fourth. 1 plus 3. So let's see. When we looked at, if we wanted to try to eliminate some, all of these answer choices have the 3x either to the third or squared, so we can eliminate the ones that are 3x squared, and we still have A and C. And then we've got the plus sign versus a minus sign. It's going to be the plus, which is answer choice C. Let's look at simplifying variables with question 74. Again, we've worked some similar to this. When I see a question like this and I have a quadratic anywhere in it, I'm going to think I'm going to try to factor it. So let's rewrite this numerator on the top. X squared minus 2x plus 1, I can break down into two terms here. Both, we're going to put x at the beginning. This sign tells me that the signs are the same, and this sign tells me what they are. They're going to be negative, and we're multiplying to get 1 and adding up to get that 2. The only thing we could multiply to get 1 is a 1. And so when I look at this, kind of a clue is that we're going to have a term probably from the numerator, because I can take one of these and cancel it out, and we're just left with a 1 in the numerator over x minus 1, and that's answer choice B. Question 75 says, for all positive real numbers x, which expression is equivalent to this? And so let's rewrite all of this. I've got x to the 18th over x to the 7th, and that's this division bar here. What we can do, instead of dividing, I can get the reciprocal of the denominator and multiply. So I can change that to multiplying by x to the third over 1. And now we can also do some simplifying. We can either multiply on the top or do some simplifying with these x's, and I think that's what I'm going to do. So when I'm looking at dividing this over this, it's subtracting the exponents. So I've got x to the 18 minus 7 times, I'm going to use that instead of the x, because that can get confusing with our variable x, times x to the third. And this turns into x to the 11th times x to the third. And we're going to add the exponents now. So we have x to the 14th, and that's answer choice D.